Hi everybody, my name's Joe. Quick show of hands then. Hands up if you've ever booked a hotel online with late rooms, hotels.com or Expedia. Point, yeah? Or Marriott or Ritz-Carlton. Hands up if you ever booked a train ticket online with the train line. Yeah? Look at that, you've all done that one, that was me. Hands up if you've ever bought anything on eBay. Any points? Yes, done that. Hands up if you've ever applied for a course at Bristol University. No, nobody, surprising. Those are all projects that I've designed over the last 12 years of my career. So the full design work for the train line, all the good stuff is me, all the bad stuff is obviously other people. Yes, and my job, so I'm a UX, user experience consultant, and I spend a lot of my time researching, designing, and doing digital strategy. And today I'm going to talk to you about two things. I'm going to talk to you about designing for the human brain and behaviour, and how we all think and how we all behave, and how empathy and understanding your users, and I do hate the term users, it has drug connotations and many, many other things, how understanding people can help you become better designers, to make your designs more effective, more usable, and a little bit more fun and engaging to use. Sarah mentioned, yes, I wrote a book. Hands up if you bought my book, it's only £3. A few of you, hands up if you've read my book at the same time. Yeah, a few of you have, there you go. So there's a real disparity, maybe we bought it and read it. A lot of people buy it because it's only £3 and never get around to reading it, but there's a lot of people here who read it and not bought it, which is a little bit more disturbing. And it's published through 5 Simple Steps through a nice Cardiff publisher.
I think that's why we didn't buy it, to be honest.
That's why, yeah. So that was through previously the guys at Mark Bolton Design, now Monotype, now Craig, and the guys at, you know. So yeah, my job, what I do, I spend a third of my time researching, spending time talking to real people. And I've done that in a number of countries across the world, mostly UK. I've done quite a lot of work in Wales. I did a Aruba train Wales, and so I know the difference between Welsh consumers and English consumers. There isn't much. And I've also done a lot of research in China and Russia and all those sorts of places. I also spend about a third of my time in figuring out what to do. So understanding what a company needs to do based on its research, where it needs to go, all those difficult things, making sure companies make the right decisions. And then I spend about a third of my time designing stuff as well. Alright, so I'm going to talk to you today about another book. And this is a book by a guy called Daniel Kahneman. And he wrote a book about 6 years ago called Thinking Fast and Slow. This is one of the most important books ever in psychology, in mine. It's an incredibly interesting book. And it talks in this book about two systems in the human brain, two ways of thinking. One's fast, where we make decisions instantly, based on things like gut feel, instinct, that kind of stuff, and how we make decisions slowly. So based on previous experiences, analysing what's going on in the right now, but effectively, when we make decisions as humans, we either do it quickly, or we spend a bit of time thinking about it and doing it slowly. What I want to talk to you today about is how to design both of those two systems. How long have I got? I've got about 20 minutes, haven't I? All right, so I've got about 18 minutes left. Yeah, let's see how I get on, shall we? Right, first one, the slow. So I'm going to talk to you about the slow system. And as I said, the slow system is the system where we are thinking, we're reasoning, we're deciding, we're aware of the decisions that we're making, typically. I'm going to tell you a story about how that works. Because again, as I mentioned, Sarah mentioned, my background's in neuroscience and psychology, so I've got a degree in neuroscience. Don't tell anybody, I've only got a 2-2. Alright? Don't feel that undermines my stuff in any way, shape or form. Alright? The stuff I failed on was statistics and labs, because I had to do things like cutting up snails and cockroaches. God knows what that's got to do with what I do now, but that's the stuff I failed on. Rest assured, the rest of it was top marks for. Alright, so I'm going to tell you a story about this city. Do you know where this is? Been here, recognise it? This is Bridgend. No, this isn't Bridgend. Offending people from Bridgend, sorry, my wife's from Bridgend, so I feel like I can a little bit. This is Buenos Aires in. God, I feel like I've really offended you. I haven't. I haven't. No, this is. What's that?
That'd be great if it was Bridgend.
It would be, wouldn't it? No, this is Buenos Aires in Argentina. And I've been to Buenos Aires twice, and the same thing happened to me both times that I went to Argentina and visited Buenos Aires. And it both happened with an ATM. Both the times that I visited Argentina, an ATM ate my cash card. Anybody ever been to Argentina? Been? Yeah. Had this problem? I'll explain why I had this problem. I was thinking, why is it that I've been so unlucky in Argentina? Why is it happened twice that ATM has eaten my cash card? It happened to me twice. And then I started looking online and I realised it happened a lot. There was a search for ATM card in Buenos Aires or Argentina. It happens a lot. It's like, it's weird. So this is the actual machine that ate it the first time. It's a bit of a crappy photo because it was a few years ago that it happened, so I took a picture of the machine. I went back a few years later, and this is a picture of the second time that I took, and it's actually weirdly, it's the same bank and the same machine that ate my card both times. So what happened? Why was it? And I started thinking, well, how can psychology help me understand why me and all these other people have real problems using cash machines in Buenos Aires? I told you this would be an exciting talk, didn't I? ATMs in Buenos Aires. So here's me using an ATM in the UK. We all know how ATMs work. They work the same way in Wales as they do in England. First time I shot that video, yeah, I included my PIN. I'm not that stupid, I did it the second time. You can see it. But you all kind of get it. We know how to use an ATM. You put your card in, you enter your PIN number, you select cash, the cash comes to you. You kind of get the idea. We all know how it works. You know, you do the cash, select your cash, card comes back to you, and then your cash comes to you at the end of it. Okay, there's my card, then cash comes at the end of this. All right, we're all very, very used to doing this. This is the order that it happens. You know, enter a card, enter PIN, select amount, remove the card, and then we get our cash. Now, this orange one at the end here, get cash, this is what we call in psychology goal state. So this is us getting to the goal. It's like, yeah, I came here to get my cash, that's what's in my head, I've done that, job done, I'm finished. Off I go, see you later, thanks very much. Okay, we've all done this, we've all used ATMs, haven't we? I'm not going to embarrass you by putting your hand up if you've used an ATM, you've all done it. So what happened? What went wrong in Argentina? What was the problem here in Argentina? Well, let's have a look at the order of stuff in Argentina. It's the same, enter card, enter PIN, so far so good. Select amount, everything's gone fine here. Then it gives you the cash. You can see what's going wrong here. So what happens typically when you get the cash in the UK? You take the cash, what do? You leave, don't you? Because you've hit goal state, you've finished your transaction, you've hit goal state. What's missing at this point? I haven't removed my card. So at this point, I've grabbed my cash and I've left, and the machine's beeping at me, but I'm just, I've got my money, so I'm done. And this is the problem. So comparing this to the British system of selecting a card, goal state is reached too early. When goal state's reached too early, problems occur. And this is the big reason why, within Argentina, this is why people lose their cards, and it happens across the world. So if we take, and effectively this is the problem, this is how we all work as humans. We take our past experiences of using a cash machine and we apply it to new situations. So when I'm using the Argentinian one, I'm applying the British way of doing it to the Argentinian way of doing it. Because I know how to use a cash machine, I'm not stupid, I know how these things work. And this is how humans work. We take our past experiences and we build mental models from them. So we build mental models of the world around us and we apply them to new and novel and interesting situations. So we're in a coffee shop now. Have you ever been to a coffee shop in Paris before? Or Milan or Madrid? Have anybody? No, you're all Welsh, you don't get that much. You've been there. Have you been in that situation where you go into a coffee shop in Paris and what do? You walk up to the counter and you go, can I have a coffee please? What normally happens at that situation? Yeah, the waiter tuts you, says, "Non, monsieur, take a seat." And you go and you sit down and you feel really awkward and uncomfortable. It's the same deal. We're taking our mental model of how a coffee shop works in the UK, we're applying it to France. So what happens, do you think, when French people come to the UK and try and order a coffee? What do? They go and sit down and wonder, well, the service is dreadful in this place. Where is everybody? It's the same thing that happens. That feeling that you get of uncomfortableness when something goes wrong is all about when the slow part of our brain stops working. When we go into a new and interesting situation, we take the past experience and we apply it to that situation, be it buying a coffee or using an ATM. Okay? And this is the ATMs around the world. And this is the same reason that ATMs from people from the US and from Japan have the same problem with goal state. Okay? Now, if you look at the US way of doing it, in the US you remove your card earlier. You know, in Japan you select them out. Stuff is a different order in different countries. It doesn't matter. I don't get my card eaten in America, I don't get my card eaten in Japan, but I do in Argentina because the goal state is in the wrong place. So I know what you're all thinking now. How does this relate to actual design? How does this relate to the design stuff that we're working on? So I'm going to tell you a story now about cruising. No, not that type of cruising. Sorry, it's not one of those talks. Are you ready for this? This is a really exciting project. Okay? It's going to blow your mind. I told you about the really exciting ones I've worked on before, but you can't wait for this one. I'm going to talk to you about the time that I redesigned Saga Holidays. Grab some tea while you think about the significance of that. I bet you didn't get that at Creative Mornings, did you? Yes, I redesigned the website for Saga Holidays. I did a number of things with Saga Holidays, one of which was effectively have a look at their current website. And this was the flow that they had on their current website. Okay, this is how they expected people to buy holidays on for a cruise. If you've ever been on a cruise, it's a really complicated thing to do. You know, you have to select airports and flights you want to go on, you have to select the ship, you sometimes even have to select the cabin. If there's 4,000 cabins, they'll often give you the choice of 4,000 cabins, which is just ridiculous in terms of having to choose one. And this is everything that they were doing. You go through all of these steps to kind of get there. And they had this website, and it was really failing quite badly. Nobody was buying stuff online. They were all picking up the phone. So what did we do? We went out and we went and spoke to some people who did this stuff. So people who are the target demographic from Saga. Now I know what you're all thinking. And yes, this gentleman here is wearing a wig. And it was the most uncomfortable user research session I've ever done. No, I'm only joking. These aren't the real people that I did it with. I can't really show the real people that I did it with. But we went out and we spoke to 10 people in terms of understanding how they did this stuff. So these are people who both booked holidays before with Saga and people who are new to it. And we just sat there and we watched them trying to use Saga's website. We watched them trying to use their competitors. And we just got an idea about how they did it. You know, pretty standard stuff. I also spent a day in the call centre as well, listening to calls in terms of what people speak to call centre operatives about. So if you can't ever do user research, but you've got access to a call centre, this is a really, really cheap and easy way of getting research done. Because you hear all of the problems that people are having, and you hear also as well the people who are really good at dealing with customers. So if you sit with the best customer service representatives, if you make a note of the words they use, the problems they solve and how they solve them, you've suddenly got a really nice quick crib sheet of the things that your website or your app needs to do, or that it's failing with, or the words you know that can convert and make people buy stuff. Another tip, don't tell the people in the call centre that's what you're doing, because they get quite possessive of the stuff they're doing, and they think you're going to put them out of a job. Anyway, it doesn't work very well. But it's a great way of gathering data. And I also spent 3 days on a Saga cruise, which was interesting, to say the least. There's this concept of cabin hopping that happens with the over 60s. I'm not going to tell you about it now. If you ever meet me in a pub, buy me a beer, I'll tell you all about it. But I spent a week on the cruise, understanding why people book cruises, what questions they had about booking a cruise, what problems they had, what worries they had before they went, how they booked it, why they booked it, just getting really in-depth and understanding what was going on. And then, so what did we do? We took the existing website flow, pretty standard stuff, and we created a list of questions that people had at each step. I mean, nothing complicated, considering the amount of work we did. This was the output from it. Okay? These are the questions people had at each choice. You know, what about visas? Where are the cabins on the ship? What is, all these different questions that people had. Pretty basic stuff. As I mentioned to you before, one of the big things that I spend my life doing with organisations is getting them to make the right decisions and do the right things. We've all been there. We know what an organisation needs to do, but it's quite hard to convince people what to do. So I created one slide to help them understand it. And this was the slide that I created. So this is the current customer journey for all of the people at Saga Holidays. And all they're effectively doing is picking up the phone and speaking to Saga and people on the phone because the website is broken. Okay? Now, this is a really ugly picture. And it's designed to be an ugly picture because it shows how badly the organisation is not serving its customers. Okay? Ugly stuff like this, it just shows the chaos that's there. Okay? I don't have to say there's chaos, it's disorganised. I just show this, you can get a firm understanding about what was going wrong with the project. And we knew we were doing really, really well when this slide kept appearing in various other slide decks at more and more senior levels of management, because it instantly shows what the problem is right there and then. And in having this one thing, it allowed us to really open doors and get people to support us in terms of redeveloping this whole project. Because obviously, redeveloping a website, it's not just the website you're redeveloping, often it's the whole organisation that you're having to change to meet the needs of a button that you're sticking on the website. And this is the biggest problem we had. So we had to change a lot of stuff in the back of what Saga did, and this was the one diagram that did it. So what did we do? This was the brand new structure that we put together. Again, really simple. And what this taught me was the simplest way you can to explain what the problem is and what they should do, the better way. If you're sending them 50 slides of this is what you need to do, you're not doing very, very well. This one slide tells them exactly what they need to do. There's information at each point, what to give people when they're choosing a cruise itinerary. You want to know about what food's going to be on there when they're choosing an itinerary. When they're choosing a cabin or a deck, they want to know, what does restricted view mean? Can you show me a deck plan? Loads of different things that people need at a certain point. Really good quality photography. Not 360, it's just really nice photography. And it's just all about the choices, it's different steps, just giving people information at the right point to get them to buy stuff. And so back to psychology again. And what this tells us, and what the slow system is within our heads, is it takes a lot of energy to think about something. Okay? We're all inherently lazy people. And so if we're forced to think, be it in terms of deciding how to use a coffee shop, should I use a coffee shop where I have to sit down or stand up? We'll take the easiest option, which is why Starbucks internationally does incredibly well with travellers, because you see a Starbucks, you go, well, that's easy, I know what I have to do. Okay? Thinking is hard. We'll always take the easy option as humans, even if we're not aware that we're doing it. So again, designed it, if you need to create stuff that's easy for people to use. And the way to do that is to stop people having to think. Give them the things at the point that they need it. And it's not rocket science how I did it. I kind of showed you a really, really basic how we do it. So again, if you're engaging in a digital or design project, spend a bit of time just building a really simple process of what people go through and the information they need at each step, and it will design for this system. It will stop people having to think. You're designing for the slow system. Okay? Because again, this is the problem with us thinking. The brain uses about 20% of all of our energy. It uses the most energy of pretty much everything that we do. So if we're reducing that load, we're going to be in a much better place. All right, so my first tip. Designing for the fast and slow. Slow, you match the mental model of how people expect to do something. All right? So how do people expect this process to work? What information do they need at each step? Design for the steps that people are out there to effectively do. Right, that's one. We're done with the slow. Ready for the fast? I've got 4 minutes to do the fast. It's quite appropriate, isn't it? All right, let's do the fast then. So this was a study that was conducted on ATMs as well, another one. This was a study done in Israel. And it's got a lovely academic title, isn't it? What is beautiful is usable. And what this study was is effectively these researchers, they designed 2 different styles of ATM or cash machine interface. So I've been doing this in America, I keep calling it ATM, cash machine interface. They designed one which was effectively just green text on a black background. Okay, pretty standard cash machine interaction. We all kind of know the stuff. And they designed another one which was exactly the same interaction, but they made it prettier. There's some graphics in there. They just spent a bit of time on thinking about the typography and that kind of stuff. And guess what happened? When they asked people which did you think was the most easy, which one did people think was the easiest to use? The pretty one or the ugly one? Come on, clues here. Hello Cardiff, which one did they choose? The pretty one, yes they did. And that kind of shows us that user experience is not just about making things easy to use, it's about creating things that are beautiful. If something is beautiful, people perceive it to be easy to use. They're more forgiving of things that are going wrong. Okay? And this is the fast system at work. So the fast system tells us, instantly when we look at something, oh that's pretty, immediately you've got a good feeling towards it, you expect it to be easy to use and you're going to be more forgiving of it. Okay? That's exactly what the fast system does, is it judges stuff almost instantaneously. So do you want to see this amazing ATM design? This pinnacle of cash machine beauty. Are you ready for this? All right. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. There it is. Woo, yeah. So they created some nice beveled buttons. Wonderful, aren't they? With a screen at the top, and they put this lovely graphic of an egg timer. God knows why. But this performed better than plain text. And this thing's, we're all looking at it going, oh my God, that thing's ugly. But the point is the same, okay? It's better than plain text. They've spent a little bit of time and effort getting it right. If they'd really gone all the way, they could have done something really well and made that really incredibly beautiful and easy to use. So I've been lucky enough over the years to work for Ritz-Carlton. They're a client of mine. And they do it through photography, okay? And again, the way Ritz-Carlton work is they use the same booking engine as Marriott, because they're owned by Marriott. Same process, same steps, same absolutely everything for Ritz-Carlton and for Marriott is the same. The difference is the Ritz-Carlton customers convert at a far higher rate than Marriott customers do. 3, 4, 5% more than Marriott customers. Exactly the same interaction. Even booking Ritz-Carlton hotels through both systems, Ritz-Carlton performs better. And it's like, well, why is that? And a lot of it is because Ritz-Carlton designs like this. They have incredible photography, but they spend the time and the effort making the site more beautiful. And what's going on in our brains at this point is beauty evokes emotion. And emotion for us humans is quite a profound way of perceiving and looking at the world. It's quite an established way of us understanding what's going on. And we're not aware of it happening. And it kind of speaks to this part of the brain, which is a little bit more primitive. It's a little bit older. It's a little bit more connected to everything else. So the emotional part of the brain is attached to everything else that you do. All the connections to the emotional part go to everything that you do, from be it seeing, smelling, everything like that. Thinking, emotion controls pretty much everything that you do. So if you're invoking positive emotions, you're going to have much more of an effect in terms of people accepting your design. They're going to be thinking better, they're going to be thinking differently, their mental models might even change, and they'll be more forgiving if something goes wrong. Positive emotion works. Anybody here work for the Daily Mail? Negative emotion also works. As long as you've got some emotion in there, things are going to be better. Okay? So my 2 tips. Fast, evoke emotion. Slow, match the mental model, and you're going to be in a much better state going forward. Okay. Right, folks, so finally, have we got a bit of time left? Do you want to hear one more story about ATMs? Alright, final one. Anybody know this film? Terminator 2. So what they do in ATMs in Terminator 2 is they hack into ATMs. They make it look really easy. So John Connor hacks in, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, when I was at school, I went to a particularly bad school, and some of the kids at school were like, oh yeah, you understand computers, don't you, Joe? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh. And they actually somehow managed to buy one of these things. And we tried to hack an ATM when I was about 16. One of the most stressful things that I've ever been involved with in my life. So we got it already, and basically it didn't work. Of course it didn't work. And it scared the shit out of me. We got chased away by bank staff. It was the end of my criminal career. But what was interesting about the guys that I went to bad school, is they carried on, and they formed in Gloucestershire what's called the Johnson Gang, which you might have heard about. And they carried on with this spree of crime. Do you want to see how they cracked the ATM crime spree? This is how they did it. This is the most effective way to steal from ATMs. They would steal a JCB, go in, take the ATM out, stick it in the back of a Subaru and be off. So that's the best way to crack ATMs. And this is the third bit. And this is about instinct. And instinct is an incredibly powerful piece of the brain that's going on there. Instinct tells us many things like avoid crime. I'm trying to think how that story relates to instinct. It's just a funny story about ATM. This instinct gets us at that particular level. It puts us off. It tells us really deeply how we're feeling and how we're working. What's interesting about instinct is we do use this in web design. It's near this area called the Fusiform Gyrus, which is at the back of the head. The Fusiform Gyrus, anybody neuroscientist in here today? No, thank God. They always ask me the most difficult questions. The Fusiform Gyrus does one important thing. It helps us recognise faces. Also, if you look at the Fusiform Gyrus, it's near instinct, it's near emotion. Faces evoke emotion. We're good at reading faces in terms of emotion, in terms of working things. Instinct works at a really deep level in terms of this stuff. When we're looking at faces, we're not thinking about it, okay? Back to the fast system of how we work. instinctual. So what that means in terms of web design is this crap. Yeah? Everybody knows that faces sell better. So what ends up happening is we put this junk out on the website, which is this awful stuff, which is stock photography. This is actually the Mickey Tech stock photography that was done by a couple of actors recently. I'm not very good at, don't read BuzzFeed, I don't know who they are. Do you use that guy? Do you know who that guy is?
Yeah.
There we go, James Franco and there's other guys. They did all these quite tongue-in-cheek fake stock photography. What was quite funny about the stock photography is we know how bad stock photography is that actually what started happening is people started using the fake stock photography as stock photography. They were just typing stock photography into Google and pulling it out. So this is the irony, is that people are using this jank because they hear, oh, faces work really well. If they put a face on my page, it increased my conversion by blah, 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 blah. No, because this stuff is done to death, okay? Our slow system overcomes our fast system. It tells us, oh, I know what they're trying to do here. They're trying to convince me to do. So again, every time we think we've got something in terms of fast, if it's overused, or we invoke emotional instinct too much, our slow system takes over and goes, oh, I know what you're trying to do here. And there's an awful lot of this stuff. There's like, how to use psychology theories to persuade people. There's loads of this crap out there in terms of do this and people will do that. There's loads of junk about how you can nudge, coerce, get people to do something that they already would do. There's whole agencies and people who do nothing but tell you how to use psychology to get into people's minds to get them to do things that they want to do. Bullshit, ladies and gentlemen. All of it is bullshit. If people are coming to you with that stuff, there's no such thing as a quick win. You can't just suddenly do a quick, clever Darren Brown trick and increase your website sales by 50%. That shit doesn't happen anymore. All right, I'm telling you, here's one of them. Look, neuromaps, neuromarketing, sales brain, junk. Back to Saga. So what happened? What's the end of the story with Saga? Let me tell you the end of the story with Saga. So we spent all this time and effort designing this slow system that people could spend and time. They spent their time and their effort moving through it. They had all the information they needed. We put it live. Week 3, guess what happened? One single transaction, somebody spent £43,000 on one website. £43,000 in one go. That's the largest transaction through anything that I've ever done. £43,000 through one of my websites. I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. But what it was again this idea that we just gave them all the information they needed. They felt comfortable throughout. We had some beautiful photography that helped them feel very happy about what was going on. And these were people, again, everybody's like, oh, over 60s don't use the internet very well, they're all really nervous. No, they do. And they spend this sort of money out there if you get it right. Okay? So I've done this talk in the US and I get a round of applause at this point. So uncouth those Americans are. I don't want one. Doesn't mean I want one. All right, so my 2 tips, based on my experience of doing this for 12 years. Slow, match the mental model. Steps that people go. Fast, evoke emotion. Just do nice, pretty pictures. Make your shit look good. Okay? And number 3, just do 1 and 2. Don't mess around with that fucking crap pseudo-psychology bullshit of persuasion. It's crap. Do these 3 things, ladies and gentlemen, and you will be very successful. Thank you very much.